What up, Wizards? It's Dev from The Place, and today I'm partaking in every Magic player's favorite pastime. Playing Magic? No, come on, man. Instead, I'm spending money I don't have on cards that I want and might potentially use someday, maybe. But y'all know me, I ain't trying to spend too much money around here. This is a budget-focused channel. I know we're all as broke as a half toke on a tater as thin as a bicycle spoke, so I'm not going to go buy packs willy-nilly. Those are a lot of money. I'd rather buy lottery tickets at this point, although what's actually the difference, right? Now, instead, I think as usual, I'll just spend about as much as I would spend on a single pack of cards and get most of the cards that I actually want from this set. That's kind of the whole point of this series. Don't buy packs, buy singles. I'm one of those guys, yes. So let's go ahead and take a look at how we spent this $5 bill with an asterisk. More on that later. The first thing I knew I wanted from this set was Iridescent Vine Lasher. Again, more on that later. Instead, the first actual card that I purchased from this set was Zorine Cosmos Caller. They were actually able to scoop this little lady up for about $1.49, which is pretty good when you consider that she's about twice that now. Now, it turns out standard is the thing mostly driving that price increase, but oddly, you're probably going to think I'm a little batty here. Does Dev have rabies? No, I just want this card for Commander. Both like as a Commander, it seems like a fun one to brew around. I basically like anything Orzhov and will buy it because I'm a sucker. But also, this could just go in the 99 of like the Elasil Core Commander deck because more or less every creature in the deck can be gotten back with this thing's ability. Plus, I guess if I ever actually get around to building the Amalia deck I've been planning to build in Commander for the last 6 months or so, then like maybe this slots directly in. It's pretty good. Gain you a little bit of life. Get your good creatures back in those decks too. So yeah, this will go in something eventually, and I felt like it was worth being the most expensive card in the order. And next I stuck with Orzhov. It probably won't surprise you, but I also got a Lunar Convocation for 59 cents, which is more than I wanted to pay, but still. Batter Blossom over here looks okay. This will also go in Amalia when I build that deck, but it can go in Elasil Core 2 right now, and I want to try it? I'm not actually sure it ends up getting a jersey, but I do want to play a few games with it. Magical Ziggy pop in. He's here suddenly. Now, this is just about the only card in the order that I probably could have gotten cheaper on TCG Player. That's right, I didn't use TCG Player. What's up with that, Dev? You always use TCG Player. Well, I'll actually like to take this part of the video to send a special message to TCG Player sellers. TCG Player sellers, I feel like I have to ask the question to you. Why? And why don't you stop? You see, the problem with TCG Player, at least with this set that I noticed, is that all the prices are ridiculously exorbitantly higher than market price, which doesn't seem to make any sense, but you know, TCG Player sellers sometimes will employ some tactics, and I feel like those tactics are on the rise with this set for whatever reason. For instance, far fewer sellers are offering free shipping at $5 nowadays, or at least with this set from what I can tell. It also seems as though some sellers will sell a card that you're looking for instance, Zorine Cosmos Caller. I saw this a lot with this card, where they will sell it for below market price. And you're like, oh, cool. I'm going to start shopping from this seller, see what else from Bloomburrow they have. And they will either have literally nothing else from Bloomburrow, you haven't opened this set at all, you're a card shop, or that said, all the other cards from Bloomburrow will be at like 4 times higher than market price. Don't you want to sell Magic cards? Why are you doing that? You do realize that you're generating neutron star supernova levels of bad will, right? Like people shop your shop and they see that you're charging more than double market price for all the cards from Bloomburrow, and then they react like, oh, cool, I'll never shop this seller ever again, or at least that's how I react. So again, how come you're doing that? So for the first time in the history of this series, and also me ordering Magic cards for myself in the last like 9 years, I decided to go off TCG Player, and we ended up on Card Kingdom, which had some pretty good prices. They were normal. Thanks for being normal, Card Kingdom. So yeah, long story short, if you're a TCG Player seller, cut it out. But yeah, back to the actual video here. I also bought a Starscape Cleric. It was 39 cents, which is honestly probably too much for this card. I understand that, but I really wanted it, which again is every Magic player's best justification. Now, I may not have built that Amalia deck yet, I keep bringing it up, but I have a Dina Soul Steeper deck that this goes directly into. Unlike the first couple of Orzhov cards we saw today, this is amazing in Dina because you're always gaining like 1 life at a time in that deck, making this like a little baby Sanguine Bond or something like that, so I love it. Also cool that even in a Commander deck, you kind of get to play 2 copies, like a little bit, right? Because it has Offspring, so it's one of the very few creatures you can have 2 copies of and play without having to do any weird shenanigans-y copying stuff. I mean, I guess Offspring kind of is that, but it's all self-contained. So for only a few mana, 5, it's, you know, it's some mana, you end up getting 2 copies of this guy, and suddenly I gain 2 life, and I hit everyone for 2. It's awesome. It's so awesome. So yeah, I want to try this card out, and I haven't slotted it into Dina yet, but I'm really excited to. This is actually like low-key one of my favorite cards in the whole set. And then I went looking for an Innkeeper's Talent, and when I found it, it was $10. And I was like, what are you doing? Why is it that much money? So instead I went with the other green talent in the set, Hunter's Talent. We ended up getting this for about 35 cents, which honestly, I kind of think of as a steal. I'm building a mono green cube, as I've mentioned a fair number of times now over the past 6 months, because that's about how long I've been building the stinking thing. It turns out that mono green cube is actually a pretty delicate little lady that you got to get exactly right if it's going to be any good or playable at all. And most important thing, one of the most important things at least, in designing that cube is the removal suite. And there's a fair number of good green cards that remove stuff. A bunch of different bite effects, and Feral Encounter, and Song of the Dryads, and Lignify, and there's some good green removal, but I'm always on the lookout for more and better green removal. And I actually think Hunter's Talent is one of the better, like, fighter bite spells that you could possibly play in Cube and even in Commander. It just kind of does everything that a green deck wants to do anyway, man. Comes down, bites a thing, helps out your attacks a little bit when you level it up. You level it up again, it draws you cards. Like, yeah, man. Just all the good stuff on one card. And I'm a little bit surprised this is only 35 cents, because as far as green removal goes for a format like Cube, really can't do a whole lot better than this. But honestly, I still kind of felt a talent deficiency, as I've been told many of times in the comments section, but I wanted a little bit more talent, so I picked up a Bandit's talent as well. So now I have the talent to hunt down my own food and then steal it from myself. This is only 39 cents, which I felt like actually was the exact right price for the card. I didn't feel bad paying anything under $1 for this, to be honest, because it's, first of all, popping up all over Standard right now in these Orzhov mid-range decks, obviously the mono black discard decks, and the Orzhov Rottenmouth Viper, like nurturing pixie builds that play Hopeless Nightmare. You've seen them probably. It's just kind of everywhere in Standard right now because it's a great card, but it's even better, arguably, in Commander. See, it's kind of easy to miss that a couple of modes on this say each opponent, right? When you first play it, you're actually getting a fair amount of card advantage out of the thing because you plunk it down and each opponent has to make this decision. And then once you level it up to level 3, then you get to draw cards for each opponent that has, you know, 1 or fewer cards in their hand, which is kind of ridiculous. You're drawing a lot of cards if you're playing Magic correctly. Yeah, when I started talking about how good a discard card might be in Commander, Ziggy got up and started meowing at me, so as usual, he makes good points. Usually discard isn't the best thing in Commander, but I've kind of slyly been working on a Davriel Rogue Shadow Mage deck for Commander right now. You could also play like Torok. There's other ways to make a discard Commander deck, but my Commander group lets you play with Planeswalkers as commanders, so I'm being a little stinker. I'm making a little Davriel deck, which, by the way, is another good rack effect, and it's especially good to have it in the command zone. Again, I am a stinker, and you see how he's taking offense? You see how he's taking umbrage with this point? Because, yeah, I know, you don't want to play against it. It sounds like the most annoying thing in the world. Now you're trying to bunt my shoulder to be like, Daddy, don't do that. Don't do that. Be a good person. Aren't you supposed to spread love and be kind? Now he's mad. He's going to eat my shirt. But while everybody else is discarding cards, I think that we should draw more. I think it's good when everybody else has no cards and then you have a bunch of cards. So I also got a Darkstar Auger, which was the other most expensive card in the order at $1.29. Can you believe it? $1.29. Which this is too expensive for this card, but I really, really wanted it. Again, I really do think that's the perfect justification. And I know a lot of other Magic players want to make other excuses for when they buy cards they shouldn't be buying. But honestly, if you're being honest with yourself, that's why you bought that card. You wanted it. I'm just trying to be honest. Let's also hop right into Elisil Core or Dina Soul Steeper or Judith, because all 3 of those commander decks have swamps. First of all, it's important to have swamps, but also they have really, really low curves. I don't have a whole lot of cards in any of those 3 decks that are above 3 or 4 mana cost at the absolute most. I think the highest that mana value card in any of those decks is Sanguine Bond at like 5 mana. And there's only 1 copy of that between like those 3 decks. So, well, there's 2 copies between those 3 decks, but who cares? My point being is that this is going to help you draw an awful lot of cards. And just like Starscape Cleric, I just really like the implications of Offspring and Commander because it kind of, again, lets you play 2 copies of that 1 card, which is like unbelievably powerful, I'm pretty sure. Now, at this point, I had 1 more card to buy because we were getting kind of close to that $5 mark. Oh my goodness, I didn't do the rules this time, but Honestly, these rules are self-explanatory, aren't they? I mean, you've heard the rules by now. I can't go over $5.25, and if I hit $5, I have to stop buying cards. But the thing is, this time, I didn't actually hit $5. I was really, really close, but not quite. My last card was Stormcatch Mentor because, you know, I'm not building anything, is it, right now? But so, you know, when you get a chance at a second copy of Goblin Electromancer and a potential Izzet deck, you just go ahead and you take that, right? Is that good logic? I think it is. Also, it may not be a goblin, but it is an otter, which I think is not necessarily better, but is better. Plus, it has haste and prowess, and the prowess actually I think is going to be like really important for Commander. Your Electromancer is almost only ever a 2/2, but this can be, you know, a 6/6, a 7/7 pump spell. It's a 9/6. It could even be a boat. You have no idea what this thing's going to do when it actually decides to come in, or when you actually decide to start going off and casting spells. This is just going to be better than Goblin Electromancer most of the time, and that's a good Magic card, I would say. If you're better than Goblin Electromancer, that's pretty good. Oh, you're good. So yeah, I don't have to have a deck for every single card that I buy. I feel like that would actually get really boring. Sometimes, again, best excuse is I just wanted a card, and I'm pretty sure at some point in the next 30 or so years of my Magic playing life, I'm going to do something with this, right? You know, maybe it just replaces Goblin Electromancer in the blue-red spot in my cubes or whatever, but even if that's all it does, I think it's money well spent. Now, at this point, my cart on Card Kingdom had hit $4.89, so I decided to stop, and I sent the order through. And then I bought an Iridescent Vine Lasher for $2.25. So I spent $7.50 on Bloomburrow. Everyone's always saying I should bump it up to $10, so this is the closest thing I've ever done to that. I just had to have an Iridescent Vine Lasher. I wasn't going to leave home without it. I wasn't going to stop shopping without it. And I wasn't going to close the door on Bloomburrow without buying this card. So there's a couple of other things I want, like Season of Loss, but it's still like $5 right now. That's too much. I really, really want this card so badly for Elasil Core. But I'll wait on it. I think it'll go down. But I had to have the Vine Lasher, dude. Landfall Lizard is my favorite card in the set. Period. And again, I just wasn't going to not own this card. So that's pretty much it. If you want a quick summary, we bought a total of 8 cards if you count the Vine Lasher. It was about $7.14 all total, something like that. A total of 4 rares, all playable. When's the last time you got 4 playable rares out of a play booster? I know you technically can get 4 rares. They're not going to be playable, though. So, again, I think we did better than a booster pack, which is one of the big goals of this whole video series. Aside from that, I guess the other part of the summary is TCG player sellers. Maybe get it together. Maybe sell cards at a fair price. But anyway, I got to get out of here and get this thing edited up before Dustmorn comes out. Won't be too long now, you know what I'm saying? Don't you love being a Magic player? I do. I like new cards. I don't really complain too much about it, but I could definitely see if too many sets come out a little too right back to back to back. But that's a whole other conversation for a whole other day, and maybe we'll have it sometime. For now, I'm just going to tell you to make sure you do all the YouTube stuff on your way out. Hit the like button. It's just it's shaped like a thumb. It's the button shaped like a thumb. Just touch it and it does stuff for me. On my end, it does stuff anyway. But aside from that, you can sub to the sandwich. I need some more subs. I'm always I want some delicious subs. And you can check out the Patreon. Link in the description if you're interested in that. Just $1 a month to support the channel. I need some dang old support. I can only spend $5 on cards at a time. Well, $7.50 on cards at a time. I mean, who knows? Enough Patreon support. Maybe we can bump it up to I spent $10 on a set. But like I said, I spent a little bit more than I usually did this time around because I just really, really love Bloomburrow. And I know you guys do too, or at least a lot of you do. So hit me up in the comments section. Let me know what you purchased from this set because, you know, takes all kinds. To each their own. Everybody's got their favorite stuff from this thing. So let me know how you spend money on Bloomburrow down there if you did that. That said, though, my fellow cash money millionaires, that's all I've got for this one. So I'll see you guys next time. I am Dev from the place. Thanks for watching, Wizards. Spread love and be kind.